Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are ya?
Here we are. We are on another episode of Come Follow With Us. We're excited to jump on here and to share with you all our takeaways from this week's reading. It's a good one, right?
It is. Out of the entire Book of Mormon, like I think this is probably one of the story of Ether,
Oh my
or
gosh.
the story of Jared and the brother of Jared. It's just there's just so much meat and potato.
Listen,
And anyways, yeah.
the Book of Ether is, I've always said it, and whenever I explain it to my kids, I'm like, imagine the most like intense, gruesome, spiritual thing ever. That's the Book of Ether because it is
Yeah.
crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy. Similar to the Bible. Remember when we were studying the Old Testament? And
Yeah.
I'm like, the Old Testament blew my mind. I am the same way with the Book of Ether because there's a lot of drama that happens. There's a
There's
lot
a,
of death that happens.
there's a lot of drama and the desolation of an entire nation except for one person, right? Like, what the heck is that going on here? So, yeah,
Here's something cool that I just learned. You might have known, but I just learned that the book of Ether started 2200 years before Christ. I was like,
yeah,
what? Like I always knew it was before. I just didn't know how long before. And this week when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's 2200 years before Christ.
yeah.
And
And
that's mhm.
the craziness is like so it was so when Lehi showed up to the Americas, like that nation was already here, right? That
Yeah.
nation was already like done, desolated, and just whatever, right? And so um now
No, I think there was somebody alive though.
one person.
Yeah, and they were alive until they overlapped a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
I
Oh
know.
my gosh.
I know. So here's the thing is the craziness, right? And I don't know if you can now this is and I'm careful to say this, but
Just say it.
no, I
Again,
know,
this is
because
our own personal views. Not everything we say is.
no, I know, and it's pretty like I don't want to say doctrinal sound, but like it's, and I always have problems with like, oh, where'd you get that from? I was like, well, it's here. Like, I mean, it's just because an apostle or
Gospel
prophet.
according to Miguel.
No, but this is the thing is right. Just because an apostle or prophet hasn't come out and said it, it doesn't mean like it's not right. And so
I'm
it's one
interested
of
to say,
yeah,
to
yeah.
hear. Go ahead.
So here's the thing is right. The boats that the brother of Jared did, I think it was 14 boats, right?
Yeah.
They were, if you take a look at it, wasn't it didn't just bring over people over to the Americas,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also brought animals and plants,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. It
Now,
says here.
right. So it does say here, right? So
Yep.
here's the thing is why? Like, why did that happen? So if you remember, the last time something like that happened was with Noah.
I was
Eh,
thinking the same thing.
Okay,
I was seriously thinking the same thing.
so when Noah did his, created the boat, he saved animals and plants. It wasn't just animals, but it was also plants. And because everything was going to be decimated, everything was going to be like, gone. And so the boat traveled from wherever. I don't know. There's speculations where the origin was, but the boat traveled, it landed in Jerusalem, and then that's where the new civilization or the old civilization started. And then that nation got populated by animals, and then they planted the plants, right? Okay. So if the entire world was covered with water, there was very limited plants and animals in the Americas. So the Lord, knowing that Lehi was going to come to the Americas, he needed to get the land ready with animals and plants. And so about 2,000 years before, uh, Jared and his brother came over to the Americas, 14 boats with plants, with animals in preparation for Lehi and his family, so then they can reap the fruits of all the animals and plants that were here as well. So it needed to be repopulated. It needed to be refurbished because prior to that, I'm pretty sure there was some stuff here, but yeah, they needed to bring plants and animals from the old world as well. So knowing, now again,
But it
it
makes
doesn't
sense
it
because
does
everything that the Lord does, he does it with purpose. right? So,
Exactly.
and when Lehi crossed, he did not have to bring anything.
Exactly. Right. It
And
was
when
just it,
you,
it was just one family, right? Well, it was two families, but it was one boat.
exactly, exactly,
And
that's all that it is, all that came across.
yeah, and they were coming already with a land filled with milk and honey. And so they needed, it was a land that was already fruitful with
Isn't it?
vegetation and animals, right?
So here's the thing too. Isn't it interesting that the style of boats that they both design are so different,
Yeah.
right? Because the style of boat that the brother Jared and their kindred and family, the way that they built it was like little barges, right?
Yeah.
It looked like a, what did they say, like a whale belly or like a whale, right? That's how it's
Yeah.
supposed to travel. But yet when um Lehi and his family, the boat that Nephi built was a full-blown boat. It
Yeah.
traveled on the surface.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
took them to a whole lot longer to get here.
And the boat, and if you think the boat that Jared Jared and the brother built were in similar of the Noah's Ark, right? It was closed off. It wasn't like an open boat, right? Like it was a barge. It was a capsule.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and I would love to. Anyway, so I just find it to be very interesting that if this is the case, and I mean just going on based on historic writings and stuff like that, that the Lord knows
He knows everything.
what's going to happen thousands of years in advance. And
Yeah.
so when things now, the brother of Jared, when he came to the Americas, did he know like the full purpose of the Lord, right? Maybe not. I don't know. But he was obedient. And even though he didn't know the purpose of, he still did it. And Lehi and his entire family benefited from something that happened 2,000 years prior to him, right? And so anytime, sometimes we don't fully understand the will of the Lord. Um, and it's okay to ask questions, but
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that even though you don't have the full answer, you should still do it.
Oh yeah,
He he
100%.
he knows you way better than anybody, and so you should just listen. You should just do it, right?
They
So
always say hindsight is 2020, right? And part of
mhm.
faith is taking that leap of faith. If we always knew what was happening, it wouldn't be faith. We wouldn't be growing. We would just be going through
Yeah,
the motions, right?
yeah,
I was just trying to
and
find, because I know the brother of Jared did see the Lord, right? And in
mhm.
it, I know that I'm pretty sure that he had a perfect, not a perfect understanding, but I'm pretty sure that he saw everything from the beginning to the end of the world. Is that not
Okay.
right? I think it's in chapter three.
Well,
It,
I know that anytime that the Lord teaches you, like he normally like so in verse in second Ether 13 and 14, he did like the Lord did speak to him
mm-hmm.
for many hours, right?
That
Part of
when
part of the Lord speaking to him was a little bit of chastening because he
that was the
didn't.
first interaction.
Yeah,
When he was like, brother of Jared, his name was Moriankumer, right? He was like, Moriankumer, where the heck have you been? Why have you not been here in prayer? Because they travel and then they live their best life for 4 years,
yeah,
right? Okay, we should
yeah,
get from the beginning to the
yeah.
what happened. That way everybody knows what
Everybody's
we're
up to
talking
par.
about.
Yeah, yeah,
We just get so excited
yeah.
and we're
I
like, oh my
know.
gosh, da, 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 da.
I'm beyond excited about these chapters. Again, there's so much meat and potato. Like an hour is not enough. But anyways, it's so good, so good.
So let's do
Uh,
some summaries. Let's do some synopsis of like chapters 1 to 5, I believe we read this week, right?
yeah, it was chapter. Yeah, was it 6? I think
No,
it
no,
might
it
have.
was 1 to 5.
Oh, my bad. I, see, I'm
You're
so
over
obedient.
prepared.
I'm so obedient that I overread. No, that's not
You're
it.
like, oh, dang it, I read an extra one. I didn't have to. That was your reaction, Miguel. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the book of Ether. Why don't you give us a summary of what happened from chapter 1 to chapter 5?
Yeah. So if we read right here, like word for word, what the Book of Ether is it's a record of the Jaredites taken from 24 plates found by the people of Limhi in the days of King Mosiah. So if you've been following the Come Follow Me program, King Mosiah, I don't know what year he lived in, but King Mosiah lived And I'll tell you right now, 1 second. In the around the years of about 100, 145, 121 BC, before Christ. So around that time, the people of Mosiah, or the people of Limhi, they found an ancient record. And this ancient, they couldn't understand. They were going through the book, they were going through whatever, and they just had no idea what it was. And then with a little bit, with not a little bit, with the help of God and the translation, the power of, they were able to realize that it was an ancient records that dated about 2,000 years prior to their arrival. And
Mhm.
so, anyway, so Mormon, and if you were part of our conversation last week, Mormon was the one that compiled pretty much the Book of Mormon. And so the Book of Mormon is broken up into about pretty much four sections, but three of them are revealed to us. One of them is actually still sealed. One was the writings of Nephi, and then the writings were in a tense of like self. So I Nephi, I Jacob, I Enos. And
Mhm.
so the first couple of books of the in the Book of Mormons is from a first person point of view. The balance of the book is from a third person point of view. So Mosiah went and did, and Alma did this, and King Limoni prayed and did this. So it was a third person talking about the stories. It was a compiled section, and the third part is this ancient record of the Book of Ether. And so it's the Jaredites and who they were and what happened to them and why they left and all that other stuff. Do you know why they left Jerusalem? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was the Tower of, is it Babel or Babel?
Ooh,
I often say Babel. I'm not sure if that's right, but
yeah,
it's back in the day in, well, it's before Moses actually, right? It's
yeah.
even before Moses. So you have this heritage that goes from Adam all the way to the brother of Jared. They speak the Adamic language, so the language has not changed at all. People are becoming wicked. And what they want to do is they want to build this huge tower. And they're like, you know what? We're going to go to the Lord ourselves. Like, we're going to go to heaven. That's why I envision myself with all the attitude.
Yeah,
So that's what they say. They try, they do. Obviously, the Lord is upset because the people are wicked and they're prideful. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to confound all your languages. And then what happens is the brother of Jared tells no, it's Jared who tells his brother, "Hey, like you are righteous. Please, please, please pray to the Lord that our language may not be confounded." So he prays. His wish gets or his prayer gets granted, and then the brother of Jared, is it the brother of Jared or Jared, asked for him to not just be for his family, but for their kindred. So they get this little group, all this little group. I'm assuming they're righteous people because
hmm,
the Lord is the same yesterday, today, and he will be the same tomorrow. If he says that there's a generation like he cannot condone wickedness. He still loves us,
hmm,
but he cannot condone wickedness. And he says that if there is sin, there's a moment of separation from us and the Lord, right? And it's
yeah,
not because of the Lord, it's because of us. We're walking away from him, right?
yeah,
Anyway, so all this group of people, I'm assuming they're very close to the Lord. At least they're aligned with the Lord and in values, and he preserves them. And then he tells them that they're going to have a choice land. So they travel. They spent about 4 years in this land that's close to the area where they're going to start their traveling. And Jared and his brother and everybody there forgets the Lord. They forget to pray. They forget to come to him. And I'm guessing it's very similar to what we do sometimes when life is good. We forget, right? So life was
yeah,
good for them, so they forgot. And this is how much the Lord loves them. And I was talking to Mike about this, right? That he was willing to come to them and be like, hey, you're living below your privileges. I have all this planned for you, but yet here you are. And in the scriptures and I other resources that I've read as well, it often says that the Lord chastises those who he loves, right? And it
hmm,
reminds me of my kids. It
yeah,
reminds me when I see my kids and I know that they can do more. I know what they're capable of. I know that if I have expectations on them, they will build self-confidence. But when they're living below that and then they're just like doing barely anything, I'm like, hey, what is going on here? I have a
yeah.
conversation with them, right? So I love how the Lord parents us. He's amazing.
So I got a question for you on that.
Mhm.
How and actually, I don't know this, so I'm not trying to. It's a gotcha moment because I know I do that sometimes. But the
You don't know.
but I know
Look
you
at
don't
you,
know.
you thought you were all that.
No, it's how does he like right here? It was a full out conversation that he was
I know. I was
chastising,
thinking
right?
like 3 hours. Can you imagine the Lord with you having a sit down and telling you everything you're doing
Yeah,
wrong? And you're
yeah.
like,
And I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of teaching involved here, as long as it's just 100% chastisement. But
yeah.
and when I chastise my kids, I sit them down and I'm like, listen, you need to listen. This is what you're not doing correctly. This is what the expectations of you and whatever. But it's a full out conversation between me and this person. Us and like nowadays, how does he chastises us? Like how, because it's not a like he
That,
doesn't just appear in our room and be like, all right, we need to have a sit down, man to man, or
that would be amazing though.
father, phenomenal, right? But how does he chastise nowadays?
Oh my gosh. So I legit was thinking about that very thing yesterday
Yeah.
because I was having this conversation with Mike, and then after my thoughts were like, well, how does he do it for me? And as you were talking, a couple instances came to mind, right? Um, Sometimes he does it through my thoughts. So I had one
Mm,
instance where very I don't want to say early. Yeah, it was probably early on in Mike when Mike and I got married. Where we had our third baby. Um, Mike received as soon as we had our third baby, like I was literally in a hospital, he received a call and he was extended a calling. And I was upset about the calling that he received, right? I was never supportive. He was he was Elder Quorum's president. I was so frustrated because I'm like, I am laying in the hospital. I just had a baby. And here I was thinking that the person that called was calling to congratulate us. No, he was calling to extend the calling. Anyway, it was my fault too. I was the person who was very private and then was upset that nobody was there to help because
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
knew, right?
yeah.
Anyway, so I went through this season that I made it so hard for Mike to serve in his calling. I'm a firm believer that whenever you're serving in the Lord, you're serving the Lord, especially in a capacity of a calling that's heavy. Elder's quorum is very, very heavy. That is not just a one person serving, it's a family effort, and I
Mm,
didn't understand that. So I gave him a really hard time. He definitely did not do probably what he was probably capable of doing. And a big reason was me, right? So, okay, that experience happens. Then he gets released. And then different callings, whatnot. After I had Ruby, she's like a year old, maybe a little, yeah, she's a year old, right? And they again, he gets called and he's like, this time I have to go into the meeting with him as well. He's gonna have a meeting and we know that he's about to get it. No, actually we didn't know that he was gonna get a calling extended. We actually thought it was regarding our temple recommends because we were in the process of doing that too. So we get called and I'm like, da, 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 right, I walk in, we sit down, he gets extended a calling to work in a bishopric. I was like stunned. Okay. And then this is how the Lord chastened me, okay? As he was getting his call, um, I think it was President one at the time, he turned to me and he asked me if I was going to be supportive of his calling. And I remember the Lord coming into my thoughts, or the thought being, are you going to hinder Mike?
mm.
And I was like, no, I am not gonna hinder him. That was literally, and that got etched in my mind and in my heart. So anytime he gets extended a calling, I'm like, no, I can't do that again. I'm like, the Lord is always like, are you gonna hinder him? I'm like, no, Lord,
Yeah.
I will not hinder him. So I happily said yes, of course. And it was a hard season. But it was a blessed season because I had four kids that were under the age of 6 at the time, or six. No, 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 it was 8 and under, right? And with bishopric, obviously you are the bishop, but all those meetings, I had to get the kids ready. We only had one car, or sometimes I would drop him off early in the morning and then come back, get the kids ready and all that stuff. So it was definitely a family sacrifice, but it was so worth it. And I'm glad that the Lord gave me that moment and gave me that thought, because had he not, maybe I
Mm.
would have acted differently.
And we see this here as well, that even though you messed up the first time, right?
Hmm.
This is not me saying it, this is you saying it, right? Even though
Yeah,
you
no, I
messed up the
totally
first,
did. I was like
uh,
the most horrible wife.
and he still came back and called Mike to a higher, I don't want to say a higher position, but there is a hierarchy when it comes to callings. Order of importance, maybe not, but definitely a hierarchy. And even though you messed up, or even though you didn't magnify your calling as a supportive a partner,
Spouse. Yeah.
he still came back and still trusted you and said, okay, let's do this round two kind of thing, right? And and we see it here too, because they messed up, but then the Lord's like, listen, I got big plans for you guys. We need to talk. And
Yeah.
so he loves us so much that he still comes back to us, right?
Hmm.
And here's what I don't think people understand, is that the relationship that we have with God, there's no difference between father and son or father and daughter.
Hmm.
That even though, how many times have your kids screwed up, how many times do they mess up, how many times do they make those wrong decisions, we still love them and we still give them opportunities to serve, and we talk to them, we sit down with them, and we're still there with them, and we still teach them, and we're doing all these different things. We don't give up on them. We just keep going over and over and over. It's because of that pure, perfect love that Heavenly Father has, right? And I think a relationship between father and son, or daughter and father, yeah, or definitely father to child, it's perfect. Like, we love them unconditionally. Um, they are everything, right? They are our DNA, and so um, to understand the will of God is to understand the Father, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so he's so good.
Yeah,
You know what? Another thing that I love about this particular section that we're reading, chapters 1 to 5,
yeah,
is the fact that it gives us a clear definition of what, well, not a clear definition, I should say a clear example of what faith looks like, right?
yeah.
Faith looks like trusting, but faith also looks like doing. And then enough that the Lord trusts us, and He's like, He wants to hear our thoughts, our ideas, like, what do you think I should do, right? And then
Hmm.
the whole experience with the brother of Jared, where after he gets chastised for 2 to 3 hours, he goes back, he builds those barges. The barges are going to be dark, and he's worried. And he comes to the Lord, and he's like, Lord, it's going to be so dark. Like, what are we going to do? And then he turned around, and he's like, well, what will you have me do?
Hmm.
Right? I found that amazing. The fact is that the Lord does not want to control our lives. What He wants is for us to exercise the agency that He has given us. And through that, He's able to magnify what we do as well. Um, in the one of the sections in the Come Follow Me manual, which is a little synopsis at the beginning, it says, He wants to hear our thoughts and ideas, and He will listen and give His confirmation or counsel us otherwise. Sometimes the only thing separating us from the blessing we seek is our own veil of unbelief. And if we rend that veil, we may be surprised by what the Lord is willing to do.
Hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
That is. Um, Hang on. There's a part here. There, where is it? The Jared comes to him, or the brother of Jared comes to him, Koran to Mahan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when the Lord says, what will you have me do?" Right here. And the Lord said unto him, the brother of Jared, "What will ye that I should do? For ye have the light in the vessel." Right. So this is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "For behold, ye cannot have windows, for they will be dashed in pieces. Neither shall there take the fire with you, for you shall not go by the light of fire. For behold, ye shall be as the whales in the midst of the cross in the deep." Oh freak! Where is it?
Which one are you looking for?
Well, I was under the understanding is that the brother of Jared says that we can't do the following, but
No, that's the Lord that says it.
the Lord is saying, well, we can't do fire, we can't do a whole. What will you have me do? Right?
Yeah, because and the Lord said unto the brother of Jared, and then he says, what will have me do? And then the Lord says, well, we can't have windows because they're going to get dashed,
Yeah,
and you can't take fire because you're not going to go by fire, the light of fire. And then he explains to him why. Like, you're
yeah,
going to be as a whale in the midst of the sea, for the mountain waves shall dash upon you. Nevertheless, I will bring you up again out of the depths of the sea.
yeah,
Okay, so I loved verse 23 from here, from chapter 2,
yeah,
the ether number 2. And it
yeah,
says, it's the beginning, right? It says, And behold, I prepare you against these things, for ye cannot cross this great deep, save I prepare you against the waves of the sea, and the winds that which have come forth, and the floods which shall come. When I was reading it, I put this as a side note. I was like, the Lord will prepare us for the storms of our lives. He will provide the resources around us to help us navigate as we trust in Him and His plan. So
Yeah.
it made me think about any kind of trial that I've ever had up to this point. The Lord had prepared me. The Lord had prepared me in a sense that I would be able to navigate it as difficult as it was. I still came out on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's something that I absolutely. And here's something that that I learned actually last year is that so he's telling him you can't do fire, you can't do this, you can't do that, like, well, you have me do. And so then he prepared these rocks
Mhm.
and he put them under fire, molten rocks, and he turned them into glass almost, right? And he comes to him and he goes, here, I take these rocks that have been molten and have been glassed up and something, put your fingers, touch them, and that will have and bring forth light. Here's here's the thing, and this is what I found very interesting, right? Sometimes all we can do to the Lord is bring forth our rocks, whatever they are, which is maybe not a lot, right? Weak men and women, undeveloped talents, just very humbling experience, and all we have is rocks to give. If we prepare them, not just dirty rocks, but if we prepare rocks, the whatever it is, whatever, he will stretch forth his finger, he will stretch forth his hands, and just bring light out of the most simplest things. And so, whatever we have, whatever it is that we have to give to the Lord, humbling as it may be, the Lord will magnify them and make them shine unto all nations. And this is when he
Yeah,
says, don't let your light hide them under a bushel, right?
yeah,
It's bring yourselves, humbling as it is, clean yourself up, prepare yourself, because I will make you shine. And I absolutely love it because at the end of the day, sometimes that's all we have to give. It's just rocks, dirty rocks, right?
right. And as you were saying that, it reminded me of this scriptures also in Ether 12:27. I give unto men weakness that they may be humble, and my grace is sufficient for all men that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make those weak things become strong unto them.
Yeah.
It was those rocks. Those rocks became a source of light, right? It also
Yeah.
makes me think of the parable. No, it's not a parable. The story of the loaves and fishes,
Yeah.
right? The Lord, all He asked His disciples was to bring loaves and fishes. He didn't say, "Hey, bring 5,000." He
Yeah.
just said, "Bring what you have,"
Bring
and
what you
they
have.
exactly. He never focused on the end result at that point. He focused on what they had to give, what they had to offer, and then he was able to magnify that and feed the 5,000.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Seriously, like I think my life is a miracle because I the opportunities that I've had it just been me, I would have like lit everything on fire. Nothing. My life would not be the way that it is right now.
Yeah. Well, this studying this has made me think of like what have I brought to the Lord, right? And what are my rocks and how have I prepared myself? Listen, and you know me, and a lot of people that are close to me will know this is I'm an ungraduated kid from high school, right? I'm missing a credit or two. I went to university for about a year and I was like, this is not for me. And then I quit. I quit university. And so I am I'm in society, I should not be where I am. But I firmly recognize that it's because I've brought all of my gifts, any little gifts, any little talents that I've ever had. I'm like, Lord, this is all I have to show for right now. And I need you to help to magnify these things. And I am where I am because I know that He's taken me, this dirty rock, and made me glow, right? And so I love these chapters because from nothing came something great, and
Yeah.
that even blessed a an entire generation 2,000 years later,
Hmm.
right? From something so simple like this.
Yeah. I love that.
So what are have you seen that in your life where you've brought
Yeah.
nothing but rocks, and the Lord and said, "The Lord, this is all I have to show for right now."
Oh, 100%. 100%. I feel like all that I've had to show for sometimes is just my willingness because I've been
Mm,
like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I feel overwhelmed. I feel worried. And all I've had was just a willing heart. And somehow he's made a way. And one of the things that I feel like it's interesting for me is that when I was growing up, I was super shy and I did not have the ability to public speak. Right? It
mm,
was the person that you see today is completely different than me growing up. And I think a big thing of it, though, is that I did not nurture my faith. The faith was not something that was important to me. Not
yeah,
realizing that when I didn't nurture my faith, I also did not nurture my faith in myself. Like to me, those kind of two things come hand in hand, faith in yourself and faith in God.
yeah,
Because if you can have faith in God, but if you don't have faith in yourself to at least try and do, it can just end there. And also, if you have too much, if you, all you rely is on yourself and don't have faith in God, then you're putting yourself in the slippery slope of things when things don't work out. How are you going to feel about yourself, right? Anyway,
yeah,
um, so I think about how I was before to the way that I am now. I think about how I was too with my friendships and how I showed up as a friend and how I am now. It's night and day. And what I did was gave the Lord my willingness. I gave him my heart. I gave him my willingness to read. A lot of the changes that I've had in my life have come through the scriptures. They have come through personal development, and because of that willingness, I'm better able to manage my emotions. I'm better
mm,
able to show up as a better friend. I'm able to public speak. I'm becoming a better leader. So that's because of the rocks and my that I've given the Lord. He honestly, I
mm,
wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without him.
yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. I love it. There's a part here where I want to kind of like discuss here because
Hmm.
I know this is can be somewhat controversial.
Ooh, let's get into it.
Let's do. So
Let's do it.
there's a heading here in the Come Follow Me that says Heavenly Father hears and answer prayers.
Hmm.
Always?
Hmm. He always hears our prayers. So
I
here's
know
what I've learned.
I know he hears our prayers, but the question is, does he answer our prayers always?
Yeah, the answer might be not right now, or this is not good for you. So I've been reading this book, and it's about manifestation, but in reality, what it is about faith, right? And it's interesting because he talks about that sometimes there are things that we want, but then there's things that we necessarily don't need in our character development, right? And the way that he took it is that he took it as our subconscious, something inside of us. Even though we can have these lofty goals, we can have all these things that we want. If within us, we know that that's not going to be beneficial to us, it's not going to happen. So then it made me think about prayer, right? It made me think about the Lord. And it made me think about sometimes the wants that I have had, the ones that he said, you know what? The answer was a no because I didn't get it. That was the answer, right? But
Mm,
then hindsight 2020, I'm like, oh, I see why. I totally see why. So I truly believe that he answers all the prayers. It's just that we personally may not like the way that he answers them.
mm. Yeah, okay. Because you hear it all the time. So then what counsel would you give to somebody that says, well, I'm praying, but he's just not answering my prayers? And I hear that all the time, especially in the position, the calling that I have.
Yeah.
It's always like, yeah, Heavenly Father, I pray to him, or I'm always praying, but I never get the response, or I never get he doesn't answer prayers, he's not listening to me. So what counsel can you give someone to say that, yeah, he doesn't listen, he doesn't answer my prayers?
It's so tough. I think I during general conference when we were watching it in between the sessions, there was this story about this man who he was going through something difficult in his life and he was like, okay, this is my challenge. Okay, it's fine. I trust in the Lord, right? So he's like 6 months went by. He prayed. He felt like he wasn't like his prayers weren't answered. And he's like, okay, I just need to continue trusting, right? 2 years later, his prayers are still not being answered, right? And what he was seeking comfort, knowledge, he was seeking all these things because of what a difficult situation he was in. It took 9 years, 9 freaking years. I was blown, like my mind was blown because I'm like, would I be able to do this for 9 years? And I honestly, I don't know. I want to say that I would want to, that I have a desire, but this man for 9 years, he felt as if his relationship with the Lord wasn't like he didn't feel as close as he was. Like he didn't feel the closeness with the Lord,
Mm,
right? So then he said one day he was a composer of music and he's like in the midst of his pondering of him still doing the everyday actions, right? He was still reading his scriptures, he was still going to church, he was still praying, he never gave up because he had that hope that at some point he would receive the answer that he needed. And 9 years later, he received his answer through music. I think he said he sat over 3 hours and he composed music. And he's like, the way that it flowed like it was coming from heaven. And all the comfort that he required, all the answers that he was seeking, all the things that he needed to do came through that. So I
mm,
guess in reality, my my take is that it's less for myself. I know that for I would want to say this to others, but it's really difficult, right? But sometimes it's less about the answer that we get, and I want to say that it's more about the actions that we choose to do. Faith, if it's
mm,
not tried, then it's not faith. And if we're like, okay, I can have faith for 2 months, I can have faith for a year, I can have faith for 2 years. For him, it was 9 years, right? Like, I guess just holding on to the glimmer of hope that what you're doing, the Lord is seeing. What you're doing is getting you closer where you need to be, not necessarily where you want, but where you need to be. And that an all wise God knows you better than you know yourself, knows your situation, and the plan will unfold um, to the best for your situation, right?
mm.
So I would say don't give
Mm.
it a timeline. It could be, I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
hard though, right? Because when you're not in that situation, because I kid you not, when I was listening to this story of this man, and I was mind blown because it was like 2 years. The longest crisis of faith that I had while I've been in the gospel was 2 weeks. And seriously, during those 2 weeks, they were agonizing weeks for me because I had a crisis of faith. But I only had to go for it through it for 2 weeks. And I cannot imagine having these feelings and still making the choice, the everyday choice to still show up, which he did. So all that I can say is that the Lord knows us better than we know ourselves, and that the challenge that he gives us, he knows that we can overcome. So I don't know if that would be an answer.
Yeah, like and I mean I know what counsel I give, and then some a lot of the times there some people walk out satisfied and others like, yeah, it's just I don't know what to do, right? And so um well what comes to mind immediately uh is trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
trust. The sister missionaries, they came over to our house and they shared a scripture, and I wish I would have taken it down. But it at the end of the Book of Mormon, they talk about Moroni's, you know, the Moroni's promise, right?
If we come in faith, like he will reveal all things to us.
Um, it says here, behold, so Moroni, we're gonna study this chapter later on, but moving forward in the book of Moroni, chapter 10, verse 3 says, behold, I exhort you that when ye have read these things, if it be wisdom in God that you should read them, that you should remember how merciful the Lord has been unto the children of men, from the creation of Adam even down until the time that you shall receive these things and ponder in your hearts.
Mm-hmm.
That's towards the end of the Book of Mormon. In the beginning of the Book of Mormon, and I forget what verse it was, he says, write down all the mercies of the Lord. Right. So in the beginning of the book, like Nephi chapters, when he's giving a commandment to Nephi and all the future prophets in the new land, make sure you write down all the miracles, make sure you write down all the mercies, you know, everything that the Lord has done for this nation. And then almost 1,000 years go by, right? And Moroni, the last prophet, says, read these things and keep in mind all the mercies that remember all the merciful things that the Lord has done unto the children of men. And so sometimes I think back is like we don't know why things are happening. The Lord, and it's going back to what we talked about in the beginning. Sometimes we don't know fully the will of God, right? But we do have to trust that our will and his will sometimes won't align, and that
Mhm.
he is working outside of our understanding. And so the last thing, the only foundation, the only thing that we can stand upon is just trust. He's been good to us thus far. I know things are happening. I know that crap hits the fan sometimes, but just trust him. Just trust him. And whether it's a year, whether it's 2 weeks, or whether it's 9 months, or whether it's 9 years, there's a reason why things are happening the way that they're happening. And if you just hold on and stick to it, the reward will be tenfold. If we take a look at what happened with Job, right? During that time, boils all over his body, kids died, flocks were killed and taken away by raiders, servants got killed, the house, his inheritance blew down. Like all of these things were happening to him, and I'm pretty
His
sure,
friends were like, give up.
yeah, his wife says curse God and die, right? Just finish what you're doing. Just curse God and just kill yourself, right? Like, I mean, this is his wife, right? And so and I'm pretty sure that while things were happening, he had no idea why they were happening.
Oh
But
my
he
gosh, yeah.
but he remained faithful, and he's just like, you know what? I don't understand. And he did ask the Lord why, and he just remained faithful. And then the Lord came back and rewarded him tenfold. And so
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that's the only thing that we can hold on to, is that there's a reason why things are happening the way they're happening. And I think you hit the head right on the head. It's like, it's faith. Just trust him and things are going to get better, right?
It's as soon as we let go that things get better.
Yeah.
When we try to hold on and we try to do things our ways, like we're fighting against the current. But as soon as we let go and we're like, okay, as you were talking, it made me think about how going through the midst of losing my in-laws and my dad, I didn't fully understand it, but definitely by the time like my dad got sick, I let go.
Yeah.
My initial prayers were him to be healed. And I was
Hmm.
like, I can have Bible level faith, right? Like people in the Bible were healed. Why can't this miracle happen for me? So I remember trying my best to have this like Bible size miracle. And it didn't happen, right? So then it shifted to help me to endure. It
Hmm.
shifted to give me confidence. It shifted to help me feel thy love. And I remember I journaled through this whole time. I always ended with this. It was like a mantra. It became a mantra where I was like, I remembered that he loved me. I remembered that he loved my dad. I remembered that he loved my family and he wouldn't do anything that wasn't for our benefit. So
Yeah.
that particular sentence happens throughout all the time that I journaled. And I'm like, that's what kept me going is remembering the goodness of him, remembering that even if you need, I remember actually when I was going through all that difficulty, we were studying Job. I was so grateful for being able to study Job during that time, right? Because it said on there basically how he went through so much. And yet, even though he didn't understand, he still maintained his faith. And then you
Yeah.
see his blessings after. So holding on to that knowledge and reading our scriptures and looking back and reflecting in our own lives can give us just what we need at that moment in time. And it
Yeah.
becomes a moment to moment thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, it makes me think about the gospel principles. You know, the gospel of Christ is faith, repentance, baptism, receiving the Holy Ghost, and then enduring to the end. I remember not liking the word enduring, and it was until I read a post by John, by the way, where he said enduring just means choosing God, like Jesus Christ, over and over and over and over again. And I think enduring, especially in a situation where you're feeling like you're not getting the answer, you're in this storm and you don't see a way out. Enduring through that storm means just making the conscious choice to trust in Jesus Christ, to
Yeah.
remember Him, and to know that this is something that will help you. I have no idea how it'll help you. I know for me, that loss that I experienced, I didn't know how it was going to help me, but looking in hindsight, I needed it. I needed it in my life because it shaped me to be the person that I am today, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For shizzle. Absolutely. Cool. Oh shoot. Hang on one second. Uh, more than nope. Ether. Okay. So like we have here, Moroni is commanded to seal up the writings of the brother of Jared. They are not sealed and revealed. Anything else that stood out here?
Hold on, let me double check it. I think we covered pretty much all the ones that have stood out. Oh, I think there was something about prayer that I really liked. So I tend to read um the scriptures with an institute manual and come follow with us. And there's
Hmm.
this one portion where is hold on. Okay. So it's something that we've already talked about, and it's in Ether 2:19. And it's like the scripture is, hold up. Oh, it's not coming up. Um, so he's talking about light, right? And
Hmm.
receiving and perishing if there is no light. And I really like this what it says. The Lord wants us to grow and learn as we make our own decisions. He also wants us to take our conclusions to him frequently for his confirmation. And so I like how they changed the wording a little bit more to a more like here's a prophet or an apostle. I think no, it was President Harold B. Lee that said this is how the Lord answered his question where he was like, it's gonna be darkness, what should we do? And says, well, and this is how he interprets the Lord in everyday language saying, right? He's like, well, have you had any good ideas? What would you suggest that we do? And then he says, look, I gave you a mind to think with, and I gave you agency to use it. Now do all you can to help yourself with this problem. And then after you've done all you can, I'll step in and help you. And then it goes to say, if you want the blessing, don't just kneel down and pray about it. Prepare yourselves in every conceivable way that you can in order to make yourselves worthy to receive the blessings that you seek. And as I was reading that, it made me think about this quote that I often think about, and it's preparation plus opportunity equals success.
Yeah.
Right? So the Lord, He wants us to prepare ourselves. Like, for instance, if we're praying for something, if I'm praying to be I don't know. If I'm praying for something to be successful in some area in my life and that's all I'm doing, he's he's not just going to give it to me and say, here, Maria, this is it. It's going to come to your door. The reason why is because I won't be able to recognize it. I won't recognize it. I won't appreciate it. But if I'm praying for it and then I'm doing everything I can to prepare myself, to prepare my mind, then when the Lord sends that opportunity, I will be able to recognize it. Or I
Yeah.
should say that blessing, right? The Lord is there. He wants to bless us, but sometimes we just don't have the eyes to see. And that's why he wants us to prepare. If we prepare, then we will have the eyes to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I and we see it not just for spiritual stuff, right? But all matters of life and
Mhm.
business and education. That's why education is so important and
Not just conventional education. I think sometimes we think that it's just important to go to school and do everything you can at school and then come out. This
right.
is an everyday learning, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't not just stop learning when you're done school. You have to keep going. And it's both
Yeah.
spiritual and temporal because in the scriptures, or is it in the scriptures? I think it was a self-reliance class that I took. It says that everything to the Lord is spiritual. So here
Mhm.
we're like, okay, this is spiritual, this is temporal. For the Lord, everything is spiritual.
It's the only thing that we get to take over when we cross over, right? Is our knowledge. All
Hmm.
the intelligence that we've gained on this life, we that's the only thing that we can bring over to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so um the book of ether, and just one course correction, I think I said it, I said it wrong, is that the book of ether uh is the actual ancient records that were found, and they're not. They're still compiled, but it was Moroni that compiled those ancient records into, which is now the book of ether, right?
Hmm.
And so it was because he does testify of the book, and he does testify of the Book of Mormon and stuff like that. So, and it's his writings here.
Hmm. It's his summary. We should
Yeah.
say it's his summary. So
Yeah.
it is the plates of the Book of Ether, but it's his summary. Can you imagine writing down verbatim 2,200?
Yeah.
I just wonder how many records did they actually have, right? It must have been insane.
Yeah, there was a revelation that was taught, and how many records there were actually in the new world, and it was wall to wall, floor to ceiling. It was just
Wow.
papyrus, plates, just it was just everything. And yeah, there's so Mormon did a lot, so did Moroni. So yeah.
Oh,
Hello.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
accidentally disconnected my my microphone. Sorry.
yeah. No, that's cool.
All right. I
Yeah,
think that's it.
I think that is it. Oh, and then just I guess this is just a little bit of a side note here. Um, they talks about and I and Moroni have written these words which are commanded me according to my memory, that I have told you the things which I have been sealed up. Therefore, touch them not, in order that ye may translate. For this thing is forbidden. And he goes on to saying that in the mouth of three witnesses shall these things be established, and the testimony of three, and this work. Um, this is just a little bit of a side note, just the importance of being able to testify, right? Um, when you just say what you say, but without any backing, it becomes the doctrine of you.
Hmm.
And so a couple of things here. Number one is that anytime that you are teaching, always make sure that you have the scriptures open. If it's probably, I don't want to say it's my pet peeve because, oh, hang on. I don't want to say it's my pet peeve, but whenever you are teaching, you have to make sure that you are using scripture, especially when it comes to teaching the youth. Because if it's not you teaching, if it's you teaching and you're not using the scriptures, it can get foggy,
It's
right?
like the telephone, right? That you're
Oh,
interpreting. You're like, oh, is it this? I mean, it was this.
100%, 100%. And then the second thing is the importance of testimony meetings. When you go up and you are testifying of not of your travels, not of your best friend or whatever, but just the importance of testifying of the things of God, because then you have 30, 40 minutes of all these people just going up there and just testifying of the truthfulness. Whoever is listening to these testimonies, they are going to feel something,
Hmm.
right? They are going to feel that there is a God. They're going to feel the truthfulness of the restoration of the priesthood, of temple work, of eternal families. And then the Spirit can come in and actually testify of your testimony. And that's when conversion happens. It's spirit to spirit. And so just the importance of bearing witness, it is so, so important for the progression and for the progression of the church, right? And so anyway, so I just thought that it was neat to see that Moroni just added that in there, that the by the witnesses, by the testimony of the three witnesses of this work, which shall be shown forth in power and prayer. Uh no, the mouth of the three witnesses shall all these things be established, right? So just the importance of testimony. Anyways, I just thought that that was neat.
Hmm.
That's it for me, dude.
That's it. And that's it. That's it for me too. It was thank you for this conversation. It was nice to hear your insights. Made me think. It was a good conversation. I hope all of you were able to get a little nugget. And yeah, just keep reading your Book of Mormon. We're almost done too, and we'll be heading into Doctrine and Covenants. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. There's revelation for us and during these times. All of these things are as well, but it's more recent modern revelation and written in plainfulness, right?
Yeah.
So no translation involved. So I'm pretty excited about Doctrine and Covenants.
So super quick, with regards to the Book of Mormon, did you see that there is an update to the Book of Mormon app?
No.
Okay, so we have our scriptures through the Gospel Library, where I tend to use the Book of Mormon from, but there's a Book of Mormon app, super cool. There's a few things that are in there. So if you want to make your reading more interactive or more engaging, download it today. I saw the update yesterday, and I was mind blown. The narration is not just one person narrating. If there's a conversation going on, other character voices come in. I was like, what? I need to check it out, right?
No way.
There's videos. So there's videos, the Book of Mormon videos are there. So maybe if it's a little bit more challenging right now, reading the scriptures and understanding what's going on, watch the videos for additional context. And what else? There's pictures. There is things that are illustrated, and there's recommended readings along with the Book of Mormon. So highly, highly, highly recommended. Also, if you are wanting to share the Book of Mormon with a friend, this would be the app to share it with, because it's not only the Book of Mormon, which is incredible. But now there's additional resources to help our friends who may not be very familiar with the Book of Mormon understand it better. So download it
Cool.
today.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our section. No, hang on. Is it come follow me with us or just come follow us?
No, come follow with us.
So it's come follow with us because I've been saying it come follow me because that's what the curriculum is. Come follow me with us.
I think we can say come follow me with us. No, I think I don't know. It's up to you. Let
Because
us know what you think.
they're not following us because we're not the saviors here, right?
Well, that's what I say. Come follow with us, not come follow us. Come follow with. With is the link. Anyway, let us know. What do you think our podcast should be called? I vote for come follow with us.
I vote for come follow me with us because the program's called come follow me.
Come follow me with us. I don't know. I still vote come follow with us. So let us know. Let us know in the comments. Whatever majority that we get, that is what we're going with.
Yeah, I think you're wrong, but
Or
anyways,
if you have a cool name for our podcast, let us
yeah,
know. It has to be
yeah,
spiritual.
yeah, it has to be spiritual. Yeah,
Or at least like Christian based, not just like a random name.
it can be. Oh, you know what? CFM with us.
No. I
CFM.
truly believe that it should be come follow with us because we are following. We're follower of Christ. Come follow with us. That's what I think anyway. Anyway, I think I'm right. So let me know that I am
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Just if you want to let Maria know how wrong she is at this, just please let her know in the comments. It should be come follow me. That's the program with us because you're following with us to come follow me. We're not doing a discernment. We're not doing a what you call? We're not doing it a discernment. Is that what it was? A
I
dis-
think anyway, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Come
N-
follow with
me,
us.
me with us.
Yes, go follow Miguel with us.
Come, fo- come follow me. Dash with us. Or it can be like come follow me, and on the bottom is with. Anyway, you know what? People, let us know.
Let us
Let
know.
let everybody know how wrong Maria is.
Please. We all know it's, you know what? It's early. He's not in his church clothes. He's not at church. So whatever he says right now is just,
It's not doctrine. Yeah.
it's not doctrine. Doctrine on Sundays, because I know he'll go back to his scriptures. Today, all right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you next. We'll see you Monday for the VS podcast, and then we'll
Mhm.
see you next Friday for the CFM.
That sounds so weird. Come follow with us. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.